Hi, good evening. My name is Krishangi Rade, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, timeline therapist, and empowerment coach, specializing in my niche field of helping women and children deal with various things that they go through in their day-to-day lives. I'm also an educator, and I live in Durban, South Africa. So I'm coming to you live from South Africa, from Durban this evening on my page, Sankalpa Coaching with Krishangi Rade, and it's just after 6:30 p.m. In Durban. Welcome to the special live. And my topic this evening is actually, how do we help our children deal with the stressful time that the world is going through at the moment, where uncertainty seems to be the talk of the day. I welcome you to share this live, to comment, and to ask questions. So please tell me where in the world you are from, where you are watching from, and share your thoughts also on how you, or if you are a parent, if you are dealing with this particular situation, you may know some people who have children, or you are a grandparent or an aunt and uncle and watching this live with me this evening, please ask questions. It's a very real topic at the moment. And what we are talking about, I'm going to get comfortable because I'm going to share quite a few things with you this evening as to how to just ease the situation and try and make it better, especially for children to understand. So coming back to our topic, engaging with your child mindfully during this period of uncertainty, and I think it's a global topic at the moment. But when it comes to children, we are so much more sensitive in terms of how we deal with them. It's a sensitive issue. It's a real issue, and it's something that we cannot deny. We need to explain to our children. We need to tell them what's going on in the world around us, not only for awareness, but also for education. It's important for them to understand this topic. I'm also just going to take a minute to share this live on my personal page, because it is something that is really a universal topic that many people are facing, and it will benefit. I'm going to also save it on my page as replay. So if you are catching the replay, please do tell me that you are watching the replay, and share your comments and your thoughts around this topic with me. I'm just going to go onto my page and I'm going to share this post in a minute. Whilst I'm talking to you, I'm going to share it onto my personal page so that we can reach more people as we are going along. Tell me your thoughts, tell me what you feel, and tell me where in the world you are and how is this COVID-19, this pandemic affecting you and the parts of the world that you are. So being a parent myself, being a teacher, we've actually just given you some background about what's happening here in South Africa. We actually have just closed school a few days ahead of our term 1 official break because of the magnanimity or the rapid growth of the coronavirus here in South Africa. Numbers have increased over the past week, which has called for the government to actually take proactive steps to try and educate our people of South Africa and take the necessary steps of really bringing the numbers down of positive cases in order for us to be safe. So when we talk about safety, one of the big things that we're hearing now in the media, one of the big World Health Organization has called for something that's called social distancing. This has been met with kind of apprehension, understandably so, because this is really something that has been unprecedented. The world has never really faced something like this. We look at the plagues of the past, we look at smallpox, and we look at all of that has been noted in our history. But in current times, the world has not seen such a virus that has just tracked its way across the globe. So these calls and these urgent pleas have actually become a part of our current discussion. Media, we are inundated, and rightfully so, with information, with education, with sharing of how we can manage this better. Not only here in South Africa, but across the globe. So today, my focus point is actually talking about how we manage our children, how we mindfully engage with them in this particular time of difficulty, of stress, of anxiety, of fear. There's so many questions around this virus. There's so many questions that we have as adults, and I see that people are online with me. Please drop me a comment, tell me where you're from, and tell me your thoughts about how you're going to deal with your children during this time, and how are you dealing with this at home, because many people are working from home even. Okay, let me start systematically. How much do we need to tell our children? Point one, how much is it that we want to share? How much will it be that it's good information, but it's something that is not going to scare them, stress them out, or even make them fearful? As adults, we are also at a point where there's fear, there's anxiety, there's stress around the coronavirus, and that is a reality. I mean, it's a natural human instinct. However, for children, it can be really bothersome, especially when they have questions, when they have uncertainty, especially when they believe that it could affect them, or it could affect mom and dad, or their close loved ones. So how much of information is the right amount of information to share with our children? That's point one that I'd like to start off this live with. Actually, educating our children is super important. Educating, providing the correct information. And as you know, children do find comfort in their parents. There's so much of fake news that's going around. Manisha, thank you for joining. There's so much of fake news that is going around at the moment that the authentic source of information for children will definitely be from their parent. So they look upon you for advice, they look upon you for guidance, they look upon you for education and information. So how are you going to actually deal with this? Understanding what your child's age is, okay, so it's going to be age appropriate talk. If you're going to have a grade R child looking at 5 or 6 years old, then you're going to be talking to them at that level without alarming them. Just making sure that they know how to wash their hands properly, knowing about proper hygiene and how to sanitize their hands, especially when it comes to play tools with toys and so on. If you're looking at a primary school goer, they may be a bit more, they may be able to engage in a bit of an in-depth discussion, understanding where the virus has come from, and more importantly, how can we prevent it? I think instead of going back into history and drawing onto the root of it, if your child does ask you, if your child is mature enough to understand, of course, engage at that level. Of course, share that with them, that information and that education. But more importantly, you would need to actually talk about preventative measures, talking about how do you prevent this rather than dwelling on the root cause of it. Today, when I was driving about, my children had actually seen a fellow driver wearing a mask. And it was actually not really alarming because I have chatted to both my daughters about it, but it was some point of discussion as to, is it relevant? But this person is sitting alone in the car. There's no social connection at that time. So why is this person still wearing the mask? And these sort of natural discussions had stemmed from just seeing a person in the next car at the stop street with a mask on. So you need to be equipped very sensitively, and also remember that your tone of voice is very important as to how you present this. If you are going to be speaking with panic, with anxiety, with fear, with stress, you are going to impart that stress to your child. Remember, your child picks up from what a parent feels. That's even from the womb. The child actually has so much from that time of gestation. So when you're looking at sharing information about serious, important topics like this, you are going to have to be mindful of the tone that you use, the words that you use, and the caution. I think rather raise caution than anything else. Allow your child to express fears. Allow your child to talk to you, to express fears. And one of the questions that would come up in conversation around the coronavirus is that, will it happen to me? Could it happen in our home? Would it happen to my friend? How are my grandparents affected? Because when we look at children or the age groups that are affected, we know that the elderly are quite susceptible to this kind of virus. So those are natural fears, and let your child ask you. So when that kind of topic comes about, rather instead of alarming them, educate them. So with grandma and grandpa, when you talk to them on the phone, just remind them, say to your child, remind them that they need to be cautious. Remind them that they need to step up with their hygiene. Remind them that they need to be mindful before going out unnecessarily. Okay, we're going to talk about social distancing. Your child is going to ask you, how come we've closed school early? Why do we have to stay at home? Why has our routine changed so rapidly? And that's where you come in at that point where questions are raised. Then you come in and provide information. Social distancing is a big one, which I'm going to now talk about. Children, like adults, are used to society. Okay, for us as adults also, it's become quite different for us to actually not associate much, give each other a hug or an embrace, or come, in close proximity. We have to be mindful of where we stand and how we talk, how often we go out, what's essential, what's not, and those things were never really a part of discussion previously. So when it comes to social distancing, it does not mean that you have to be emotionally disconnected, because as human beings, we depend on each other for that emotional love, care, and support. So it does not mean that we are disconnecting ourselves from the world, from our families, from our circle emotionally. What it does mean is that we are being mindful for where we go, how far apart we stand, whether we're going to touch and embrace, which we will not be doing now, okay, during this time of COVID-19. So when we look at that, you are going to set an example for your child. If you are going to be talking to your child about social distancing and not practicing the same, then of course your child's not going to follow. Now, with school being out, it's making things easier where there's not that close contact in terms of children getting together with each other in a confined space, in terms of sharing toys, where germs are easily passed on. Whereas now you are going to manage your child at home. How are you going to spend that time? So it comes to my next point. How are you going to manage that time? Spending time at home for long periods of time without social interaction can be challenging. And that is a reality that I think many families and many individuals around the world are facing at the moment. It is challenging. How do you use your time with social distancing, with working from home, with having children out of school? What do you do? It's a real scenario and it's a real challenge. My point number one when it comes to managing children at home is watch the device time. As easy as it may be, where I may just hand my child a phone and say, well, there you go, you can play a game or you could watch something on YouTube and so on. And sometimes that could run away. Time could actually run away. Gaming, you could easily get into long hours or long periods of online gaming with time just running away. I've had a chat with one of my close friends this afternoon who said, you know what, I'm stuck working from home and I've got my children with me. I seem to be finding it very difficult to balance and juggle my time. And a reality, parents, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, if you depend on technology and devices to occupy your child, that's how it is. However, you need to be mindful of how often and for how long are you going to allow your child to be occupied in that way. Now, working from home and having your child there is difficult. That in itself is a difficult one to juggle if you are not used to it. So here's one tip around that. Try to maintain your routine. So it's more so something like reconfiguring your mind. This friend of mine said to me, it's day 2 of her working from home. and what to do. So yesterday she woke up in the morning and she kind of took it easy and she said, now I'm going to have a kind of lazy day and I'll sort myself out in between, sorting the kids out, sorting out my emails and working from home. And she realized that everything just came crashing down on her. She couldn't manage her time properly. Her child was disturbing her. She was not focused on what she needed to produce for the day, and things were just not working out in sync. So what she had done today is she said she woke up normal time as though she was heading out to work. She got her breakfast sorted out. She sorted out her child, and she set some boundaries and routine, which is exactly what advice I was going to offer her. Boundaries, routines, super important. Whether you are working from home, whether you are managing your child and your home, your boundaries and your routine. Remember, we always say that children need routine. Children thrive on routine. And what happens now when this routine is pulled away, when friendships are pulled away, when aftercare is pulled away, when school is pulled away, everything's lost because their routine is out of sync. So it's a parent's responsibility to actually offer that sort of new routine. If you do it comfortably, if you kind of just bring the child into the space of comfort and saying, okay, this is how we're going to manage. We're going to wake up at certain time. This is our breakfast routine. We're still going to be doing some academic work. We're going to have time on our devices. We're going to have time outside where we're going to go to the garden. We're going to get fresh air. We're going to play. We're still going to connect socially as a family over dinner, cooking in the kitchen, art, crafts, gardening. There's so much that you can do at home. And just offering that sort of structure and that sort of routine to your child will also bring structure and routine to you. It will make both you and your child more comfortable during this time. Okay, so that was those points there. And why structure is important, it's a sort of your own timetable that you're not going to follow rigidly. You're not going to follow as though it's school, but you're also going to be mindful about how you engage your time and your child's time. So we're looking at sort of blending in your child's routine and your routine. For instance, if you had to normally have a tea break at work at around 10 a.m., try and have your child break from whatever he or she is doing at that time too. So you can have a chat, you can play a game, you can take a walk in the garden or something together before you get back to your office work and your child gets back to the next activity. So try and have that blended routine, which is going to be super important in tackling this difficult period. Another big one that parents need to be mindful of is nutrition. And I think as adults and children alike, we find that when we're at home, what happens? We want to snack and we want to eat and we want to look into the cupboard as to what's next, because we don't have that structure and we don't have that discipline as we would be, whether we were at school or at work. So having that structure again, having that blended routine is very important when it comes to diet, exercise and nutrition, because remember, we are not going to be going out as often as we normally do. So when we're looking at exercise, our bodies are going to be more seated. We're going to be taking things a little bit more easily than we normally are in an active state. So your diet becomes super important also. So look at diet, and I'm seeing people are live with me. Please drop me a comment and tell me where you are in the world and how is this COVID-19 affecting you and your family? What changes have you had to implement? And if you're going to catch the replay, which I will save on my page, please do tell me that you are watching #replay. Academics, an academic focus is also very important, because with long periods of at home, like here in South Africa, we don't have a finalized date as to when children will be actually going back to school. So when we are looking at academics, how are we going to be managing our academics? Getting involved in your children's routine, actually having them to some schools have just closed ad hoc without having allowed for children or parents to come in and give you get a set amount of work for children to actually do over this period. So my advice to you as a teacher is go back. Go back to what was covered during this term. Go back to last year even. Last year is not actually too far off when we look at academics. Set that foundation, especially in maths, especially in science. You can go back and you can review last year's work. There's no harm in doing that. There's no harm in sitting with your child and doing problem solving from last year. There's no harm in looking at creative ways you with language, doing creative writing pieces, working through puzzles, learn spelling words. You don't need a course syllabus to help your child extend academically. One thing that I would like to also highlight is e-learning. And with technology, as we're doing this Facebook Live right now, we can reach the world from our own homes. So with technology, there is e-learning, there's a wealth of books, e-books that you could find online, although it may not be easily accessible to many families for different reasons, especially here in South Africa, where not every home has internet access. But for those who can, there's a wealth of downloads that you can access via e-classroom even, that could help your child in that particular grade. So I've shared quite a lot of information with you this evening, and I hope that it is going to be useful where you are mindfully engaging with your social distancing. How are you going to blend your work routine, your routine at home with that of your child? How are you going to connect better with your child during this time of uncertainty? How much of information around the virus are you going to share with your child without creating that panic and that anxiety? And how are you going to make your child feel safe? So this is what the live has actually covered. Drop me a comment, as I said, and share it. Sharing is really stemming. We're sharing information, we're sharing education, and we could only grow and become stronger as a nation, not only in South Africa, but as the world at large. My coaching practice is still very much open and active. I have clients around the world, and therefore sessions like this are available where we could use a Skype or Zoom, and that has been going on forever in terms of coaching practices, as well as with my coaching personally, Sankalpa coaching. And therefore, if you would like to have more help around this topic, more information, please do feel free to get in touch with me as an NLP practitioner, timeline therapist, and coach specializing in empowering women and children. And I'm here to reach out via a private message, via an email, or on my page. And please do share this live so that we could reach so many people during this time of uncertainty. My name is Krishangi Radhe. I wish you good health, and I wish you a strong mind, especially because mindset is very important when dealing with anything challenging. The way we view things, our perception of the world is actually what we create in our minds. So I wish you I wish you good health, and I wish you a strong mindset. And remember that my coaching practice is still open, and I will be available via my page. Good evening and take care.